morning, everybody. Bo here, Football Talk, joined with Stat Guy, and of course, this is Coast to Coast. How you doing today, man?
Doing great. Just on the road to Rosemont, Illinois right now to watch the Lincoln Salt Dogs versus the Chicago Dogs tonight.
Okay, all right. So we got some minor league ball. How those teams doing?
It's independent baseball. Salt Dogs are terrible. They're like 14 and 27. I think Chicago's like 18 and 15.
Okay. So I mean, one of them's good. So basically, that bad team's about to get messed up today.
Yeah, they lost last night 8-4, and then Jacob Teeter, who used to be in the Houston Astros system as recent as last year, had 2 home runs last night.
Okay, all right. I mean, speaking of some entertaining baseball, I guess the Mariners end up with a walk-off grand slam to put a game away last night, which that was a fun way to go. Now, it's against the Sox, so if there was a team you were going to do it against, obviously the White Sox are probably that team. But it was a late game rally for the Mariners. They were down 4-1 and managed to get some runs in. They actually tied it up on a full bases loaded bunt with 2 outs. They squeezed out a bunt with bases loaded and 2 outs.
What's a bunt?
What's that?
What's a bunt?
Yeah, it's something that doesn't exist anymore. That's for sure. Pretty crazy way to tie the game up. And then the next inning, they shut the Sox down. They allowed a couple on board, but got out of the inning. And then the Mariners load the bases up and then blast that shot for a walk-off grand slam, which exciting way to wrap that game up.
Hey, I got Brandon Wu as my fantasy pitcher today, so he better do something.
I mean,
I've learned to start everybody that plays the White Sox this year, so he better do something.
I mean, if you are starting against the Sox, the odds of you getting a dub is high.
Yeah.
That White Sox team is next level bad.
And it's kind of funny how I think it was late Saturday night. It could have been early Sunday morning too. Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner of the White Sox, and their GM Chris Getz basically said the manager's job is safe.
Really?
Until at least the end of the season.
Well, okay.
But even at that though, like you saw how bad he was last year, and you've seen how bad he is this year. Like, why would you even give him any sort of job security at this point?
Well,
you should be lighting a fire under his ass to be like, your job ain't safe unless you fix it.
No, I think at this point you would say it's safe just because they're so bad. You might as well the season's already over. You're already basically out of contention. The White Sox are 26 and a half games out of first place. They
would have to lose. Where are they right now? They would have to lose 14 more games the rest of the way if they won. Let's just say they went on like the longest win streak in MLB history. They could only lose 14 games the rest of the season to get to 100 wins. Any more than 14 losses, they can't even get to 100 wins.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why I say this season is toast. So if you were going to give the manager a pass, that would be it. And only because you don't have a chance at this point anyway. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter what manager, player change. Like, it makes no difference at this point. The Sox season is definitely over. So for him to say that it's safe till the end of the year, sure. Because I don't know too many interim managers that want to walk into that dumpster fire anyway.
Well, here's the problem too, though. They have Luis Robert on the trade block right now, who is obviously their best player.
Sure.
If they trade Luis Robert at any point during the season, they're not going to fire Pedro Grifol heading into next season, because what manager is going to want to walk into this system next year without Luis Robert, without any sort of direction that your team is going right now?
Yeah, but at the same time, when you are this bad of a team, you're going to be on the seller's side of personnel, right? Like, you're not out there trying to grab a bat or a pitcher or anything like that. Like, you are so far from being competitive. that's one of those you sell the whole team. A record like this is what gets teams to move cities.
Right.
I mean, I still think they have a legitimate shot to be the worst team to ever lace them up.
Even if they don't end up with like the worst record in MLB history, I think a lot of people are going to view this team as the worst team in MLB history. When you just look at, they don't have a ton of talent, but they do have talented players like Jimenez and Luis Robert and some of those guys. They have some talented pitchers, but like when you just look at the run differential, when you look at the ERA, the team batting average, and like all the internal stats that people don't talk about on like a daily basis, even if their record ends up being better than some of these teams in the past, I still think they're going to be viewed as the worst team ever when you look at some of more of the internal stats.
Well, and even if they don't go down as the worst team ever, they may still go down as the worst road team ever.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because they're 5-27 at this point.
5-27. They started, I think, 0-15
something
on the
like
road,
that.
so they're actually 5-12 in their last 17.
Still not great.
I mean, 5-12 on the road is a lot better than 0-15.
No question. But I mean, based on their pace through this portion of this season, they're looking at an away record of like 10 or 12 wins.
Yeah, I think they're on pace to go like 15 and 57? 15 and whatever that is.
Yeah, probably something like that.
15 and 66, something like that.
Yeah, that's about right. So, I mean, just absolutely insane to me. You'd think they would accidentally win more than that. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a pro team. In theory, there's supposed to be talent on that roster.
Yeah. Sure, Reinsdorf for you. He did the same thing in Chicago with the Bulls, too. So, I mean, when he wants to tank, he freaking tanks hard.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's fair.
Like, right when after they lost Michael Jordan and that group of core players, the next 5 years for the Bulls was just horrible basketball. 20-60, 21-61, 17-65. Like, when he wants to tank, he tanks hard.
Well, I mean, it doesn't leave anything to the imagination, right? You know exactly what he's doing.
Yep. I mean, you had Tony La Russa who won 92 games. Like, I understand that there was a lot of issues between La Russa and the clubhouse and La Russa and I guess some of the ownership group.
Sure.
But he still won 92 games with practically the same team they have right now.
Yeah.
Why you fire him after one season is, well, technically 1.5 seasons because he was the manager in 2021 and they weren't great in 2021 until the second half of the year. But why you fire a guy that won 92 games for a manager that's never managed before is a question mark in itself. And it's just like, you may have not done as well as you wanted to, but you still won 92 games. You still made the playoffs.
Yep.
And there's only one or two everyday position players that were on that team that are not on this team anymore. The pitching staff is drastically different, but it's like your lineup is very similar to that lineup that won 92 games, and here you're sitting right now with like 16 wins.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's I don't know. There's a lot of stuff like that from front offices, though, because I mean, you could make that same parallel from basketball, right? You go from a coach that maybe you weren't getting along with great, but is winning 3/4 of his games, and then you bring in Doc Rivers, who absolutely tanks that team.
Yep. Like I'm on a business side of things of sports where personal relationships aside, I really don't give a shit if my team hates my coach. If my coach is winning games and putting us consistently into playoff contention, putting us consistently in a position where we can win a championship, I'm not moving on from him. I'm just going to tell the players to pretty much suck it up and be tougher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think your players should dictate who your coaches are. I mean, we watched that across the NFL, right? All the coaches that coach hard didn't get jobs. Oh, muted you. Still there?
There we go. Got it fixed now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Jesus. So they shouldn't dictate how the coaching is, but you see that in every sport. Like, if there's any sort of rift in the locker room, any sort of rift between players and coaches, regardless of what the reason is, the coach is always the one getting the axe, even if they're successful.
Yes. Yeah, I mean that's true to a degree. I think there's a little more leeway in football than there is in the rest.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to baseball and hockey and basketball, stuff like that, if you're coaching hard, yeah, you're gone. In football, you can keep your job. You probably won't get a new job, right? Like if you coach hard, but there's results, you'll keep your job. If you are on the outside looking in, you will remain on the outside. At least that's what we saw this year.
And I think that's what we saw with Belichick this year for sure.
No, exactly. Well, and Rabel, right?
Yeah.
Vrabel had that same problem.
I think Vrabel more so. Vrabel, I think, will get another job. I think this year.
Yeah.
I don't think Vrabel pushed as hard as he could have to get another coaching job. I think he was more content with either taking a year off or hopping on as a coordinator somewhere. Like, I don't think he pushed to get a head coaching job as hard as he could. But when it comes to Belichick, I don't think he gets another job. The guy's 74 years old. He's done what he's done for as long as he's done it. But the last 2-3 years in New England have not gone well, and you've seen kind of the team starting to turn on Belichick a little bit.
Yeah, well, the thing that's funny is if you have that real hard coaching style, people will tolerate it if you're winning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because then they're like, okay, he's kind of a jerk, but we're getting results. And he's had a long, history of results. I think where his really fell apart is Brady leaves and immediately has success. Now, he walked into a stacked team, so, I mean, you would hope that he did. But at the same time, Belichick didn't do anything after he left, right? Like that team.
He did make the playoffs the first year after Brady left with Mac Jones, the year that they went 10-6, and then they went to Buffalo in the playoffs and got the ever-living shit kicked out of them in the back of a shed. But it seemed like after they lost that playoff game to Buffalo as bad as they did, that was the beginning of the end for New England.
Yeah, I mean, no question. And I mean, at the end of the day, Mac Jones was never going to be that guy, right? Out of that draft class, he was the most ready to play, but also basically at his ceiling. So what you saw is what you were going to get, which is fine if you have a team around him, right? Like if he has a good offensive line and he has some weapons and you got a solid D, he can win games for you. He's that mid-level guy. He won't make a ton of mistakes if he can stay on his spot. If he has to try and carry a team, he's just not that dude. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to know what he is.
And I think that's the trap that New England fell into, is because they became – Mac Jones was, when you look at the comparisons and when you look at kind of how he played in college, he had a lot of the Tom Brady traits. And I think that's the thing that New England fell in love with too much, where they were comparing him to Tom Brady so much that they expected him to come into New England, play the way Tom Brady played, obviously not at the same level, but kind of do the same things Tom Brady did.
Sure.
Basically do what coaches say they can make the most out of what is given to them. So I think they expected him to come in and kind of get the most out of him with what they had at their disposal. And when they kind of saw that he can't do what Tom Brady can do, they were already in a tough spot because they were locked into him for 3-4 years. They weren't going to draft another quarterback 2 years after draft more. So we'll take our lumps and see what he is by year 3. And if he's nothing, we'll move on. They did. They sent him to Jacksonville.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think their theory could have even worked had they spent the money on the offensive line. Because one of the things you can always say about that Tom Brady era is their offensive lines were good. Like they spent time building the trenches, right? They had good offensive lines. They had solid defensive lines. So, he may not have had the weapons, but most of the time he had time. And even if your weapons aren't elite, with enough time, guys are going to get open.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, he had guys that were like, he had fantastic slot receivers, right? They ran really clean routes. They found ways to get separation. They weren't guys that were going to burn you down the field or anything like that. They weren't athletic marvels by any means, but they could get open. And, that's what you need. Then when you figure Brady had such a quick release, if you have a guy, if you have solid slot receivers that can get open and tight ends, well, yeah, you can get the ball out quick. You pair that with a good offensive line,
Yep.
You're going to win a lot of games.
I mean, the one time he did have an athletic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It took Eli to stop him.
Yep. I mean, you had Randy. He had Randy Moss for what, 5 years, 6 years, and like that.
Yeah.
Tom Brady that we saw when he had Randy Moss was, in my opinion, the greatest quarterback wide receiver combo in NFL history. Like, Tom Brady could just freaking fling that thing up there. Moss was going to come down with it. He was going to get 3 touchdowns a game for the most part for a large chunk. I mean, first year he was there, Tom Brady threw for 50 touchdowns. Moss had 27 of them or 25 of them, whatever it was. It was just like, if this is what you can expect for 6 years of these two, it is what it is. And then, like you said, then the rest of his receivers are like Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman, Eric Decker, like a bunch of, I'm going to sound racist, but I don't mean to sound racist. A bunch of short little white guys who couldn't do crap besides be little scrappy little humans that got open.
Hey, at the end of the day, if I'm a quarterback, I want guys that can get open.
Yeah.
As much as I love a splash play, you get a splash play a couple of times, right? Because even in those Randy Moss era, he only caught the ball 5 or 6 times, right? He may have put it in the end zone half of the.
2 of them go for 90 yards, and then the other 3 would be a little 10-yard or 10-yard or 10-yard. Like, he'd have his 2 home run balls, and then everything else is up, move the chains.
No, exactly. I mean, so as much as those splash plays are awesome, give me dudes that can create separation and move the chains. Exactly. That's how you win games, because that keeps the other team off the field. Now, obviously, Randy was a very different animal, right? Like, that was a guy that you just throw it up. He was taller, faster. He's going to come down with it, and then he's going to stretch the field and whatever. That's an aberration.
I mean, when you, like, even in Randy Moss's prime, like, you could pretty much say the moment he stepped on a football field, he was in his prime.
No question.
In Minnesota, but, like, that was the one guy where I remember the story that Dante Culpepper said when Culpepper was the quarterback, that Randy Moss felt that he was open before the play even happened. And there was times where Randy Moss would, like, look at the safety, he would look at the cornerback, and he would literally just stick his hand up in the air like this, like, I'm open, throw it to me. Culpepper would throw it up in triple coverage, and the guy's catching it for a 75-yard touchdown pass and, like, running it like it was hit like a slant pass, just like James.
Yeah. No, I mean, he was a different animal for sure. It's and super fun to watch. I wish he had a little more T.O. in him, though.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see him as a guy that wanted to play every down.
I think early in his career he did.
Yeah.
But then, like, when he got to, like, early in his career when he was with Minnesota and the Raiders, I think he wanted to play every single play, every single down, like, all the time. But then once he got to New England, I think he started to get to the point where it's like, yes, I want to play every play. Yes, I want to be on the field every down. But I'm more concerned about winning at this point now as opposed to getting out there and putting up 30 touchdowns a year, 2,000 yards receiving every year. I don't care if I'm on the field for 70% of the snaps.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it was some of the plays where it didn't look like he was trying very hard when he was on the field because the play wasn't going to him.
Yeah.
That's where I don't like it. Because, I mean, there was never a question. If you saw T.O. on the field, he was going hard every single play, no matter what. Now, maybe you didn't like him. Maybe you didn't like how he conducted himself off the field. But when he was between those lines, you knew exactly what you were going to get.
Yeah.
But speaking of quarterbacks, you got Jordan Love, who a lot of people are starting to speculate is going to get the reset the quarterback market. And I just don't think we've seen enough out of him to earn that kind of money.
All I can say is let it happen.
Well, I mean, as a Minnesota fan, sure.
If they want to do that after one season, go ahead. And I'm not going to take anything away from Jordan Love because he played a lot better than I thought he was going to.
It wasn't even a whole season, though.
That's the thing. What Jordan Love, if you extend Jordan Love for 5 years at like $250 million, whatever you want to give him.
Sure.
What Jordan Love are you going to get? Are you going to get the one that played like an MVP the final 7 weeks of the season that was the best quarterback in the NFL? Mm-hmm. Then yes, that guy is worth $50 million a year. Sure. Are you going to get the guy that you had the first 8 weeks that looked like he had no business being an NFL quarterback for 8 weeks? Because if that's the guy you're getting, he's not even worth $20 million. Or are you going to get somebody in between? Because if you get an in-between version of what Jordan Love did last year, that's a very solid NFL starting quarterback. But that's not a $50 million a year quarterback. That's like your $25 million a year quarterback that Jared Goff was before he got this extension, that Russell Wilson was like before he got his big extension. Like those are the guys that you know you can win with, but those are not guys that you could consider game-changing, game-breaker caliber players. That's why if the Packers want to do this now, more power to them. But if I'm Green Bay and if I'm that GM, I wait until after this season to see if last year was a fluke or if the last 7 weeks are what he's going to be going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at, because you go into the beginning of last year and he was terrible, right? Like, it was not good quarterback play. And then you look at the middle of the season and it was a solid starter, right? Nothing great, but a solid starter. And then, to finish the season, he was playing fantastic. Obviously in the playoffs, he has a nice win. A lot of that I really credit to the horrible coaching of Dallas, but whatever. A win's a win. So, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me to pay him yet. At the same time, if you think you have your guy, the last thing you want to do is have him be a free agent next year.
Yeah, they can't afford not to pay him at this point, because otherwise they don't have a reliable secondary option. Like, for whatever reason, Green Bay knows how to find quarterbacks because they've done it out for the last 30 years. But Jordan Love also has to realize that the Packers still control him for 3 more years. Because even if they don't, they gave him that mini extension last year, which took out that 5th-year option. And
it was a 1-year deal.
Yeah, but I believe they can still franchise tag at least one time.
Yeah, you can. I don't, man, that would be tough, because the price tag that comes with it now almost doesn't make it make sense at all. I mean,
I agree there, but I think that's another thing that Jordan Love has to look at, where it's like, you can ask for this extension all you want, but the Packers don't have to give it to you, and technically you can't hit the market when you think you can.
Yeah, I mean, they could franchise tag him. It's not usually good. It's typically not good for the team. It's not good for morale. It doesn't usually end well when you're franchising a guy rather than just paying him out. But I mean, his situation makes me feel a lot like the way Daniel Jones' contract came up, right? They don't have a viable second guy, sort of has him over a barrel. There's not going to be a good quarterback class next year, and you're going to be too good to really get one anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, ultimately, they probably do pay him. But at the same time, if I'm that GM, I don't feel good about it, because I watched you play great for 7 games of a 17-game season.
Yep. I mean, if I'm the GM, like, I know that if you give me 17 games, just like your final 7, I'm happy with it. But it's like, I don't want any more of these half good, half bad seasons, because half good and half bad ain't going to get it done.
No, I mean, I guess at least you started bad and then got good. So if you were gonna build into the playoffs, I mean, I guess that's better than starting good and falling off, right? Doing the Dallas Cowboys thing.
Yep.
Man, where's Jay? I want to talk about his Cowboys. Oh man. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see what it is they do, but he does kind of have them over a barrel at this point. And if you feel confident about those last 7 games, then I mean, great. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel bad for teams in that position. And of course,
I do and I don't.
well, I mean, you're not going to. You hope they overpay him.
Well, no, not in that way. Because if this was the same situation for Minnesota, I wouldn't feel bad either. Just because you knew you were going to be in this situation eventually.
Sure.
At some point, you had to prepare for it. At some point, you had to figure out what you wanted to do once you elected to move on from Rodgers and start Love. And the same thing with Minnesota. Like the deals that Cousins was getting, like they were expensive, but they weren't as expensive as what people made them out to be. When you look at what quarterbacks are making the last 5 years, like the first contract Minnesota gave Cousins was the highest like annual money a quarterback ever got. But then after that, like the contracts he was getting, he was a top 10 paid quarterback, but he wasn't even top 5. So it's not like he was getting the money that people expected him to get. But then at some point, it's like this whole offseason, like at some point, you knew that Minnesota was going to have to figure out what they were going to do, and they elected to move on. I can't be mad about it. It's just at some point, they were going to have to cross that bridge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's actually where, Dallas is now. I mean, when you look at Dak, he has all the leverage in that situation.
He does.
Because that's another team doesn't really have a viable second option. I know people keep talking about how Trey Lance is somehow going to be the guy, but they didn't pick up his 5th year, right?
Nope.
There were games he didn't even suit up for last year going down the stretch. So,
Bro.
I mean, I don't know how much faith everybody thinks they have in him, because what we've watched sure doesn't look like they have a ton. But if he is your heir apparent to Dak, say you're moving on from him, he's averaging staying healthy 1 game a year.
Right.
So you better have a backup that's a stud, because he's probably going to be your starter.
Yeah. I guess Cooper Rush can be their backup, I guess.
His contract is up too.
Oh, they'll resign him. He'll only get about $1 or $2 million a year.
Ah, man, I don't know. He played so well in the absence of Dak. I bet somebody gives him more than what Dallas is willing.
I could see it, but I don't know. I think Jerry Jones is content with keeping Cooper Rush there.
Well, I think he is. I think it's just, is he going to pay him what another team might? Because, we watched teams like the Eagles that had to lean on their backup to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Or you look at last season where, I mean, half of the league was playing with backups.
Cooper Rush will get a Matt Flynn contract.
Yeah, I could see that.
From Dallas.
Oh, okay.
3 at 20, and they'll be like, here you go.
That would probably keep him there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. But of course, then is Trey. Well, actually, I guess you would definitely do that if you were Cooper Rush and you think you can win with the roster you have, because Trey Lance is going to get hurt.
Yeah, because I think Trey Lance will end up getting a similar deal to what Sam Darnold got this year in Minnesota. Darnold got a 1-year, $10 million, basically a prove-it deal in Minnesota. I don't think Lance gets something that high, but I think 1 year at $8. If he is their guy, or if he's the guy they want to replace Dak, the main reason why they got rid of the 5th-year option wasn't because of the health or anything like that. It was more so the cost of that 5th-year option. That 5th-year option was going to cost Dallas almost $20 million to keep him on that roster.
True.
You get rid of that 5th-year option. You can re-sign him anyways for that 5th year, but you can sign him for a 1-year, $8 million deal, basically for a fraction of the price.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I get why they did it, but at the same time, when you look at his kind of track history as far as staying healthy, I mean, it's tough to want to keep him on the roster. It was one of the reasons Seattle had such a hard time with Rashad Penny.
Yep.
Super dynamic player, tons of speed, shifty runner, big enough that he can initiate contact. Awesome. Couldn't stay healthy, right? And they kept him on that roster through the whole thing. Never could stay healthy. And, then he goes to the Eagles and they didn't use him at all. So, I mean, who knows what's next for him. But, yeah, it's any of the players that are hurt constantly, I always struggle with why are we keeping them on the roster? Because it's not like a college roster where you get to have 110 kids on it. It's 53 guys. And if you have one that is never available, I mean, that's a roster spot that you could fill with anybody.
Don't get me started on injured players on roster spots right now.
Why? Who you got?
Also, the Chicago Bulls, they're known for having a historically bad luck at the point guard position and point guards that have knee injuries like Derrick Rose, Lonzo Ball. And now the Bulls are expected to draft the best point guard in the draft at number 11, who has chronic freaking knee problems right now.
I mean, that's a requirement for the Bulls. They're just like, hey, you know what? You have to be super talented, super dynamic, and we only want to have you play one good year.
He's probably not even gonna be able to make it through one good year. He just tore his left ACL a second time, and now he's having right knee surgery at the same time. Like what? He's gonna be in a freaking wheelchair by the time draft night happens.
Maybe they're starting. Maybe they're starting one of the murder ball leagues.
Stay far away from a point guard with knee injuries, but no, in Chicago, we steer right at him. Oh, I like this guy. Knee injury, point guard, sounds good to me. We'll sign you for a 5-year deal and get 1 year out of you.
That's right. Let's go. Oh, man. So, I guess moving into basketball, what I didn't expect Kyrie to be so ineffective.
I did at Boston.
What's that?
I did when he went to Boston. I think he'll be a lot better by going back to Dallas. Just how that relationship ended with the Celtics and Kyrie Irving, and even he apologized before this series and said he could have handled things different in Boston. Like, you could tell heading into this series that was going to weigh on him a ton, and we've seen it before with Kyrie Irving that he is a head case. And when he does get things in his head, he kind of goes south. And coming into the series, I figured going to Boston for those first 2 games is going to weigh on him a lot, which it did. And now that he got those out of the way, I expect him to be much better in Dallas.
I mean, they're going to need to be because, they're going to have to win these home games to get back into this thing because they have not looked good yet.
No, they haven't. And he's the main reason why they haven't looked good because he's been a shell of what he was the first 3 rounds. But
exactly, yeah, because Luka's doing his thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
Luka was a game time decision in game 2, and he dropped a triple double. Exactly.
I mean, he was playing his mind out, and that just for whatever reason, Kyrie is just not that guy in this series. And what I'm seeing out of Kyrie is what I expected to see out of Tatum. Not that Tatum's played well, he hasn't, but he's at least been able to facilitate the ball, whereas Kyrie has been a turnover machine.
Yep.
So
and that's kind of why I think just going back to Boston I just think got to his head a little bit. And now that he's not in Boston the next week or so, I'm not saying he's going to play perfect, but I expect him to be a lot better in Dallas than he was at Boston.
I mean, he's going to need to be because if they drop this next game, it's a wrap.
I mean, but can we do something about his Native American shoes, though, which might be the ugliest freaking basketball shoe I've ever seen?
They are pretty hideous, aren't they?
Like the freaking little dangly things that he's got dangling off the top of them that make him look like damn moccasins.
Yeah, they are pretty rough. Although, to be fair, most of the shoes out there are god-awful.
But his literally look like moccasins.
No, they do, but it's Kyrie, so it kind of makes sense.
I've never seen that pair of shoes in the store before, and if I ever did, I probably would never buy them.
Oh, there's no probably. There's zero chance I would buy them. I wouldn't put those things on to mow my grass. Like, it's just not. But everybody has their thing, I guess.
Train wreck on shoes.
So yeah, what we got? Game 3 coming up tonight.
No, nothing tonight.
Oh, it's nothing tonight.
Nothing till tomorrow. No hockey, no NBA tonight.
Well, yeah, hockey was last night. So
yeah, no NBA until tomorrow. They got the 2 days off.
I gotcha.
The 2 days off to go hang out with Mark Cuban.
Yeah, it was funny. I that first period, the Oilers looked like they were going to outwork the Panthers, and then it kind of came off the rails.
Florida just looks like they're on a mission right now. I mean, they made it to the Stanley Cup final last year and lost.
Yeah,
they just look like they're on a mission to finish the job this year.
I mean, they're on a good pace for it, because they that first period, again, the Oilers looked like they were outworking them, and then the second period, they get that goal, seemed to have more life, and then that third period came and they did some work.
Even if you look at that first game of the series too, like Edmonton did outshoot Florida, they outworked Florida, but yet they lost 2-0 or 2-1 because they just couldn't get quality look on goal when they had the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think it was actually worse than that. I think it was like 3-0.
It was a 3. Yeah, but I think they outshot him. I think it was like 39-22 shots. Like, they almost doubled Florida in shots. Like, they controlled the game, they controlled everything about the game. They just couldn't put one past Bobrovsky.
Yep. I mean, fantastic goalie. So when you got a guy like that, you're going to have to put a lot of shots on to eventually get him in, or, hope he has an off night. Problem with that is it's a series. So it's not like it's a one and done. Mm-hmm. But this is one where the Oilers, similar to Dallas, have to win. This is a must-win game coming up. So I do again Thursday then?
Yeah, I do. I think NHL might be Friday.
Oh, okay.
I do expect them to win Game 3 in Edmonton. First Stanley Cup final game there in over 20 years. I think 93 was the last time they had a Stanley Cup final up there.
Okay.
First time there is a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup finals. I mean, you could say 2020 because Montreal was in it in 2020, but the first time a Canadian team has actually been able to have fans at a Stanley Cup final, which was in 2013 when Calgary made it. So, like, the environment and the atmosphere that's going to be in Edmonton on Thursday or Friday is going to be nuts. And I think
it'll be electric for sure.
I think that alone will be able to get Edmonton the Game 3 win to put them back in the series. But what they can do after that is the question.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, I did expect this to be a tighter series than what we've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be, and it still could be, I guess. But I was thinking this was probably going to be a 6-game series. I thought Florida would win, but I expected to see a little bit more out of this Oilers team than we have.
Offensively, I expected Edmonton to do a lot more than what they've done. They have 1 goal in 2 games.
Yeah.
Which, when you look at the talent on that offense, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, you have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Zach Hyman. Like, they have so many goal scorers on that team that it feels like it's almost impossible that they don't score 3 goals a game when you look at how much offensive talent they have on that team.
Yeah.
It was defensively where I thought they could have some breakdowns. And first game of the series, they played well defensively. A large chunk of game 2, they played well defensively up until the third period when everything just went south for them in the third period. But their offense, to me, is what's been the biggest disappointment of this series, just because they're not getting any production from the guys that you typically get the production from.
Yeah. So I guess I do have a question for you on Dan Hurley staying at UConn. instead of taking that Lakers job. Now, for me, I think it really comes down to what that roster looks like. And basically, you're going to be the scapegoat but when it doesn't go well.
Right.
And I would imagine the pay probably isn't going to be that much better than what he was getting at UConn anyway.
I think he'll have $4 million a year. I think the Lakers are going to give him $12 million a year.
Oh, okay. So better is significant. Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know if I would have taken that job either.
Well, to me, this goes to show you what a lot of NBA coaches think about that Lakers organization right now. Because this was once one of the, well, probably arguably you could put the Celtics, the Bulls, and the Lakers as like the iconic NBA franchises where once a job opening opened up in one of those three cities, like you would have lines out the door for interviews to get that job. And now it's like Frank Vogel. I mean, decent head coach, but not really your first choice to coach the Lakers. After you fire him, you bring in Darvin Ham, a longtime assistant who never had an NBA head coaching job. Similar situation. You typically wouldn't bring him in, but you didn't have many options because realistically, you didn't have really many high-quality candidates interviewing for the Lakers position. And now this situation.
Yeah.
Your top two choices were J.J. Redick, a guy who's never even been an assistant coach in the NBA, a guy who's been just an NBA analyst for the last decade, and Bobby Hurley, who was a great college basketball player, and he's been a great college basketball head coach. But you don't have any NBA coaches interviewing for this position right now. The ones that have interviewed for it are not big names. I think a lot of this has to do with LeBron James still being on that roster, honestly.
Oh, I agree.
And I think coaches and assistant coaches and people that are in a position to get a head coaching job are trying to stay away from not necessarily the Lakers, but they're trying to stay away from LeBron James in general because I think coaches are finally fed up with him dictating who plays on this team. Basically, him playing GM and saying, these are the guys that I want. These are the guys that I want. And then when things go wrong, he doesn't take the blame for it.
Yeah.
He blames everybody else for the things that go wrong and ultimately gets the GM fired or ultimately gets the head coach fired or ultimately gets specific players traded or cut because he wanted to play with these guys and it's not working out. And I think coaches now are just to the point where it's like, no, I don't want that kind of headache.
Yeah. No, which makes complete sense. And I wouldn't either, right? You're looking at an old roster that doesn't play well. And, I mean, outside of their the bubble year, right, which was already short, which worked out for an old team. But, I mean, when you look at that roster, AD had his best year ever, and that team still wasn't good.
I mean, they won the championship that year, but...
No, I mean this last year.
Oh, yeah.
It was AD's best year, mostly because he was available, right?
Yeah.
His first year, he didn't get hurt.
Yep.
Or at least miss significant time. I think he was nicked up at one point, but yeah, I mean, he didn't end up missing parts of the season. Really, he just missed a game here and there. But even still, it wasn't a good team.
No, it wasn't. And the biggest regret that I think that Lakers front office is going to have for years to come is letting LeBron James talk them into signing Russell Westbrook.
No question.
Because when you look at what Russell Westbrook was making that year, he was making $47 or $48 million that year.
Yeah.
And all summer long, you heard the reports that the Lakers were close to getting DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, and Buddy Hield. You take what those three guys made combined.
Yeah.
They paid $38 million, which was $9 million less than what Russell Westbrook was making, which would have left the Lakers more money to sign even more pieces.
Yeah. Well, the thing that was crazy to me with that team is LeBron needs shooters, right? Like he needs shooters around him, but he doesn't like to bring shooters in.
No.
It's weird because you would think through how many times he's made it to a finals, not necessarily winning, but I mean, he's made it, 10 times?
10 times, yeah.
So you would think that he would realize, hey, when I make it, it's because I have guys that can shoot. bringing Westbrook in does not help that out. In fact, he's a ball stopper, if anything.
I mean, early Russell Westbrook would have been a great fit, but
Sure.
the broken down shoulder and knees Russell Westbrook is not a great fit.
The thing that's funny is as a basketball fan, Westbrook was great, right? Like nobody played harder than that guy. Like he absolutely just wanted to battle out every game. You know, he was going hard no matter what.
Right?
If he's on your roster, it's like, man, I feel like we messed up.
Exactly. He just has not been the same player he was. Obviously, his Oklahoma City days, he's not the same player as that, but he has not been the same player he was even 5 years ago when he was in Houston and was still a decent player back then. And he was even decent his first year in Washington. And since that, it's been a steady decline.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you can't play the way he does and expect to be able to keep that long term. I mean, the what he does is plays hard. It's not particularly efficient. It's not really good basketball, but he plays harder than everybody. And that creates opportunities. As your body breaks down, that one element that you were good at isn't there anymore.
And when that one element is not there, then you are an elementless player.
Well, yeah, because it's not like you made the rest of your game better. You just became less athletic. You know, that's ultimately what happened to Cam Newton, right? He didn't get the rest of his game didn't elevate as his athletic ability started to fall off.
And what you just said there, too, like, outside of the overall explosiveness and athletic ability that Russell Westbrook had, name one other thing that he did good on the basketball court.
Well, he didn't. I mean, that's how he created shots.
Terrible defensively. Had a horrific three-point shot and basically a horrific jump shot in general because most of his buckets came from layups and dunks because he couldn't shoot worth a shit.
Yep.
Yes, he could rebound. Yes, he could pass. But he also made a lot of stupid turnovers, too.
Yeah, and the thing that was funny is he was so athletic and he was always driving that even though he was pretty good at passing, he was a lot of times a ball stopper, ISO ball kind of guy, right? He didn't ISO ball quite the way Harden did, but at the same time, if the ball got to him, most of the time he was trying to get to the rack as opposed to finding the open guy. He wasn't exactly the best, I guess, basketball IQ guy. But he'd outwork you, though. I mean, he would just play harder than everybody. And it created his, year-long average of a triple-double.
That was more than that. I think he had like 4 years in a row where he averaged triple-double.
Was it 4?
Yeah.
I know he had a couple of them, but yeah, no, it's but yeah, I mean, now that it's fallen off, that's why I compared him to, Cam.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when he could run and just overpower you, it made up for some of his shortcomings in other parts of his game. Soon as that wasn't really a thing anymore, those shortcomings really showed out.
Yep.
All of a sudden you're just like, oh, okay, maybe he's not real accurate.
I mean, he was never that accurate to begin with. He just kind of got bailed out by his athleticism, obviously, and having Steve Smith for 6 or 7 years kind of bailed him out too with some of the catches he made.
No, and that's exactly what I mean, though, is the things that weren't polished in his game, like accuracy, stuff like that, because of his athleticism, created some openings on the back end because people had to respect the fact that he might run. And he was big enough that you had to come in with some heat to get him down because he's just a huge human. Soon as he wasn't really able to do that anymore, coverage on the back end gets a lot tighter because now that threat of running really isn't quite the same. So sticking with some NFL quarterbacks, you got Russell Wilson out there saying that he wants to see Justin Fields take some receiver reps.
Hey, they just signed Mike Tomlin to a 2-year extension.
They did.
So,
They did.
So apparently something must be working for them there because, hey, guy's never had a losing season before, so we'll just keep him around. But Justin Fields to me is going to be the one player in the NFL this year outside of like Minnesota Vikings related that I am going to pay a lot of attention to this year. Just
Yeah.
because he has so much athletic ability and so much athletic talent
Mhm.
that you have to find a way to get him on the field. Whether that's having specific design quarterback packages for him, like read options and things like that, whether that's putting him at running back, kick returner, whether that's trying him at receiver. Like, he is athletic enough where he could be like Joe Webb, realistically, where Joe Webb came into this league as a quarterback, a very terrible quarterback who had no business being a starting quarterback. But within 4 or 5 years, Joe Webb made the transition to wide receiver, and he wasn't great. But he had 3 pretty productive seasons in Carolina as like a third or fourth string wide receiver where he was coming down with 400 yards receiving and a couple touchdowns every year, which that's very good production for a number 3, number 4 wide receiver. I think everybody wants Justin Fields to succeed just because of the situation he was put in Chicago and just how Chicago kind of handled his
Yeah.
entire quarterback tenure there. Like, they never gave him a fair shot after they switched GMs, like after they fired Ryan Poles, who was the one that, or Ryan Pace, who was the one that drafted him and then replaced him with Ryan Poles.
Yeah.
Ryan Poles never gave Justin Fields a fair shot because you knew that the day that Ryan Poles got here, he made it perfectly clear that he didn't even want Justin Fields there. It was more so we're stuck with him the next couple of years, so we have to make do with what we have until we have a shot to get our guy. And then they went and got Caleb Williams. So for that reason alone, a lot of people want Justin Fields to succeed. And
Mhm.
realistically, at 6'3", 6'4", 220 pounds, and you're running a 4.40, why not take your shot at wide receiver? You're used to catching the ball on snaps and on shotguns, so you probably have at least somewhat decent hands where you can make plays happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's more of a way for Russ to try and solidify him as the main guy. It's one of the other things I thought was interesting when you heard that Fields was going to take some of the kickoffs, some of the kickoff snap or reps. And at first I kind of laughed at it, right? Because I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, that's a good way to get your dude hurt. But with the new kickoff rules, it actually might work out
Yeah,
because the high speed collisions kind of aren't there. And he is a dynamic runner.
yeah, and that's like I think Mike Tomlin is going to have basically a bigger version of Percy Harvin in Justin Fields, where you can use him so many different ways. Because even when Percy Harvin was in Seattle, Minnesota, Buffalo, wherever he was,
Yeah.
he was a slot receiver by trade, but he was
Sure.
also their kick returner. He was also a wing back where he lined up in the backfield to play running back. He took snaps under center when they ran option plays and kind of did a little bit of everything just to get the most out of him. And I think given that Fields can throw, he's not accurate all the time, but given that he's got an arm and he can throw, Fields is going to become kind of that Percy Harvin for the Steelers, where you can use him so many different ways just to get his athleticness on the field.
Yeah, I could see them using him a little bit like the Taysom Hill type of thing, right?
Yep.
Especially maybe a little bit differently in the way that maybe you line him up as you line him up in like dual backs. So you have him back there as like a running back, or maybe you have him as a slot type of thing where you're not going to give him actual running back reps, but maybe you're giving him some swing passes that can be a double pass or, something like that. I could see them using him in that kind of way. I don't see them using him the way that they use Taysom Hill necessarily, just because I think he would be more prone to get hurt than maybe a Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, you want the talent on the field. So I get some of it, but at the same time, if you were moving forward, you have Russ for this year, you only have Fields for this year. Who do you really want taking the most snaps? Like, who do you think is going to have that better overall performance that you want to think about moving forward with? Because again, this next upcoming draft, isn't going to be good, and you're going to be drafting middle of the first round anyway, so you wouldn't get either of the two guys regardless.
I think at this point, I think both quarterbacks are going to be a 50-50 split.
You think they're going to split reps?
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Because I don't think at this point, being Russell's 35, 36,
yeah,
he's not the quarterback of the future, so they're not going to sign him to a long-term deal.
No, for sure, yeah.
Being that Justin Fields is 24, you could essentially sign him to a long-term deal if it works out, but you never really are going to know because of what he's shown his first 3 years in the league. You put both these – everyone knows what Russell Wilson was and kind of what Russell Wilson is now, so taking snaps away from him really isn't going to do much just because he's still going to be Russell Wilson whether he's getting 90% of the snaps or 50% of the snaps. Like, his game is not going to change. Taking snaps away from Justin Fields further puts you in a position where you don't know what you have out of him because you don't have him on the field. So he's the one that I think is going to end up getting more snaps than people expect because Pittsburgh needs to find out if he is the guy that they can re-sign for next year for a couple of years down the road until another quarterback hits the market that they want, because otherwise they're going to be in trouble next offseason because there's not going to be too many free agent quarterbacks out there that they can go and get.
Yeah, how weird is that Fields, who hasn't really had a fair shake yet, might be viewed as a bridge quarterback. Like, you never gave him weapons or a line or anything, and all of a sudden you are a second stringer bridge guy. I mean, talk about getting drafted to the wrong team. Now, I don't know if he would have been wildly successful anywhere, but we just never even really got to know.
Well, if you remember back to that draft, New England wanted him.
Yeah.
And Chicago ended up trading up ahead of him to take him. I think if he goes to New England, I think he's still there.
Oh, I would agree with that.
And I think New England is, I'm not saying New England would be a Super Bowl contender with him or anything like that, but I think New England would still be a team that would be making the playoffs every year. I think they'd be getting in as a wild card because I don't think they'd be better than Buffalo regardless. But I think they'd be getting in as a wild card, and I think they'd be a team that could win one playoff game, maybe even get to the AFC Championship game every now and then because they have the defense that's going to keep them in the game.
Yep.
But then they could have had Justin Fields and built their offense around his strengths. As opposed to you brought in Mac Jones, who had a similar profile to Tom Brady, so you didn't really change much with your offense because you had a guy that played very similar to Tom Brady, but then you still didn't have the actual skill positions around Mac Jones that could really make a difference.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then you end up with a couple of very weird drafts, and, you know, where you take a couple of kickers and you take like 4 different defensive guards for some reason. And I mean, it was, they had some weird drafts during Mac Jones being there. So yeah, I don't know. I think we saw everything we were going to see out of Mac. I don't think we got to see what we could have seen out of Justin Fields. I don't think he's a great thrower of the football anyway, but I think he would have played a lot better, to your point, with the Pats than he did with the completely dysfunctional Bears.
And I think the perfect fit for Justin Fields, and we talked about this earlier this spring, like right before NFL free agency started, I think Atlanta was the perfect fit for Justin Fields. When you look at Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and just some of the Darnell Mooney's there now after being in Chicago the last couple of years, like, you look at some of the pieces that Atlanta has, that to me would have been the perfect fit for Justin Fields, where not only could you have had him this year, but it would have made a ton of sense for Atlanta to turn around and sign him to like a 3-year extension after this year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I could see that. Plus, they actually had a good defense, right? Not to say that the Bears defense didn't come on this last year. They did. But a good defense, actual weapons, a solid offensive line, right? Not a lead or anything, but a good offensive line. Yeah, I think that would have been a good fit for him. Plus, being that dynamic runner, when things broke down, he could still take off. You know, that's something you're not going to have with Kirk Cousins. And honestly, you don't really have with Penix, right? Penix can extend a game, but he can't. He's not going to go take off and run and, you know, get away from people really. His knee injuries, kind of took that element of his game out. But
I mean, do you really want that element back though when he's got the cannon that he is?
no, I mean, it's nice. It's nice to have the option, right? I mean, you don't want him to have to run, but you want him to be able to. Not that he can't, but he's more of that Geno Smith runner at this point than.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit different on that just because I watched a lot of Penix last year.
Yeah.
And I think Penix can run, and I think he will run more this year than what he did in college. I think he just benefited from being behind the best offensive line in the country where he didn't have to run.
So I don't misunderstand me. It's not that he can't run, right? Like he's not a Phillip Rivers where he's a statue back there. But I do view him more of that Geno Smith type runner where he's not going to outrun you.
No,
right?
He doesn't. No, I think he'll be a guy that like the pocket breaks down, he'll tuck it and go and get you 6-7 yards.
Exactly. He can extend a play. He can move around a little bit. He can go and get a few yards, but he's not going to be a dynamic runner.
No, and he doesn't. That's not his game. That's not his game anymore. He doesn't have to do that anymore. Like people, like the biggest criticism of him heading into the draft was he was a guy that couldn't move and couldn't do anything. But I'm like, if you watch the games that he played, he didn't have to move because he had so much damn protection. He could have stood there like a statue and just freaking flung it.
Yeah. Well, and in the national championship game, that defensive line was back there at the same time the ball was. I mean,
he showed a lot of plays during that national championship game. Like he did show a lot of agile plays. Like he avoided he got hit a lot, but he avoided also a lot of hits too, just because of how he was able to move in the pocket. It's like the guy can still move when he absolutely has to. But when you're not getting hit, and when you had the protection that he had most of the year, what's the point of running when you don't have to?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have to, obviously you don't want him to, but. Again, he's not going to be that dynamic runner. If you wanted a guy that was that dual threat, then you would have went after like Bo Nix, right? Doesn't throw as good of a ball, but is a better runner. I mean,
think my best comparison that I have for Michael Penix is, and you can look at the body, like the body build for it too, is Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously Teddy Bridgewater had a weak arm compared to Michael Penix, but they're both 6'3". Penix weighs, I think, like 217. Bridgewater weighed like 212, so they're both kind of scrawny when it comes to quarterback. Neither one of them had a ton of speed. Bridgewater could run when he absolutely had to. Penix can run when he absolutely had to. But when you watch Bridgewater play, when he run, he would tuck the ball and pick up 6-7 yards and move the chains. That's what he did. Every now and then you might get a 10-yard run out of him just because he had plenty of open space, but he was never a guy that was like, oh, read option, I'm going to take off. It's like, nope, pocket's breaking down, I'm going to tuck it and get what I can get.
Yeah. No, and that literally is my comparison for Penix, is he's a guy that can move around enough, that can extend a play and complete the pass, or tuck it, go get you a couple, but he's not going to be the guy that can get away, for a 30-yarder, right? Like he's not out there breaking tackles and, making people miss, stuff like that. That's just not part of his game, really. But yeah, so we'll pick this up on the other side of the break. We are at the top of the hour. So see you guys in a couple of minutes.
This is Reggie Jones, owner and founder of Air Sports Academy. Air is based on the 4 core principles: heart, education, integrity, resiliency. AIR is about developing student athletes physically and mentally through training, mentorship, and effective marketing. We've created a platform and a blueprint for our state to shine in the brightest of lights. I created this program because it was a need for our state. We needed to have the light shine on the student athletes in our region. And now that is happening at an all-time and undeniable rate. We created a lane for the kids in our state to get their college education paid for and set their families up for future success. We created an environment where serious athletes can now come compete fearlessly. We've achieved this through our variety of elite programs. Our 6-month off-season program, where first-year starters or seasoned vets can all come develop. Our 5-on-5 program, which is all about our line. Our youth tackle program, which is the first and only youth tackle team from the state of Washington to ever win a major national championship. Our 7-on-7 program, which is ranked top 10 in the country every year. Our high school 11-on-11 club tackle program, which creates unique and much-needed opportunities for our kids. Our college prep program, which allows our graduates to come back from college and prepare for the upcoming season. Our track and field program, which creates an opportunity for our young air boys and air girls to continue to get faster. In your national program, you receive national respect, which is why when you look at recruiting boards and top player lists from around the country, you'll always find players from Air on those lists. Which is why college coaches from some of the most prestigious schools around the country come into our facility to recruit our players. The Penn State, Alabama, Oregon, Stanford, Florida State, the list goes on. Our players are being recruited, offered, and committing to some of the top schools in the nation. The experience our players and families receive is second to none. We offer a competitive brand of sports at Air. We are the ball. And with that comes great responsibility. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. This is it.
All right. So yeah, before the break, we were talking about Penix and his fit in Atlanta, and of course, where Justin Fields is going to be headed as far as how he's going to be used this year, and realistically, whether or not the Steelers end up keeping him. Ultimately, they got to keep one of these two guys because they don't have another option.
Or do they?
Who do you see them going after?
If it doesn't work out with either one of these guys next year, I will not be surprised to see Dak end up in Pittsburgh.
There has been some speculation that they go after Dak. I think the one that was really interesting of a team that potentially goes after Dak was Miami.
I could see it a little bit, mainly because of the durability issue with Tua.
Exactly.
He has been healthy this year. Like this past season, Tua was healthy, and that's great for him. But
it's the only year, though.
Yep, and if he has one more concussion, he's getting to the point where he's going to be medically forced to retire from having too many concussions.
Exactly.
They have Tyreek Hill locked up for, I think, 4 more years. They just re-signed Jalen Waddle for 3 years. They still have Mostert. They still have Devin Etienne and all the other pieces that they have.
Yep.
So Dak going to Miami makes a ton of sense if Miami's not confident enough in Tua being healthy for the next 5, 6, 7 years. But if he does,
I don't know how you can be. Right? He wasn't healthy in college. He's had one season in the pros where he's made it through the season. So I wouldn't feel comfortable about it either.
The most I would ever give Tua at this point in his career, I would give him a 3-year deal. I would not go more than a 3-year deal on Tua. And if you want to pay him $40-45 million a year for 3 years, it might not be worth it. But at the same time, that's kind of what the going rate for a quarterback is at this point.
I mean, if Daniel Jones is getting 40,
yeah.
I mean,
but like when it comes to Tua though, like for 3 years, like yes, that's a lot of money for 3 years, but it's a short-term risk for a big-time gain if you can make it work. And like when it comes to Tua, if I can get 3 more good years out of him, where even if he plays 15 games out of 17. If you can get 45 games out of a possible 51 games out of him the next 3 years, I'm taking that all day if I'm Miami.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you do extend Tua, then you have to front load it too. So not only does it have to be a 3-year deal, but it has to be mostly front loaded with a backdoor out in year 2.
Yep.
Because again, I just don't trust him to stay healthy. If he can, awesome. But
and to his credit, I never thought the concussions was going to be the thing that ultimately kind of put his career in jeopardy.
Sure.
I thought it was going to be that hip when he came into the NFL, having that hip surgery and all that came with it. And the hip has been the least of his concerns since he got into the NFL because he hasn't had one single issue with that since he's gotten here.
Yeah, no. I mean, that healed up perfectly. I didn't trust him staying healthy coming into the league. It was one of those. It was one of those drafts that I thought was curious because when you saw him, you're like, okay, I like some of the things he was able to do. I don't like that he was hurt all through college.
Yeah.
And obviously you can make that same kind of comparison for Penix too. But
the difference with Penix though and Penix and Tua was Penix stayed healthy his last 2 years.
he did.
Like there was never a year where Tua was actually healthy for a full season. Like yes, Penix had more severe injuries early on with the 2 torn ACLs and then a separated shoulder that he needed surgery on and something else with his shoulder early on. But like outside of like the last 2 years at Washington, he played in all 27 games. There was never a season where Tua played more than 10 games. It was always missing 2, 3, sometimes 4 games with whatever.
No, it's why I didn't like the draft. You know, I wouldn't have selected him. I'm one of those players or one of those people that really believes in that the best availability or the best ability is availability. I really believe in that, right? Because you can have the most talented guy ever, but if you get him for 10 of your 17 weeks, who cares? I mean, you know, because it's very rarely that it's the first part of the season that they're out.
Right. It's always the second part.
Yeah. It's where you really need the talent to step up is where all of a sudden now you have a hole in your roster. So, yeah, I didn't love that acquisition to begin with, but you know, he's there. He was able to stay healthy last year. Obviously he did some different training during the off season that he credits a lot of that towards, what he did a lot of jujitsu training, stuff like that. So learned how to fall down a little bit better, but, and you know, who knows, maybe that makes a difference. Maybe he stays healthy the rest of the way, but I got to see at least one more year of it before I'd really want to pay him. And if you had the opportunity, do I think Dak is an upgrade from Tua? Yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't know if it's really an upgrade, maybe a lateral.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is an upgrade because Dak turns football over too much. That is one thing that Tua has done a really good job with. Is he does protect turn the ball over a lot. And when you have a guy like Hill and Waddle, where you're going to be throwing that up for grabs and trying to throw it as far as you can throw it and letting one of them go get it, Dak is prone to turnovers. That's the other thing that I don't think works well in Miami, because if he doesn't hit these guys, it's going to be picked off.
Yeah. No, I mean, Dak does turn the ball over. I mean, honestly, this last year, he did a pretty good job protecting the ball.
Yeah, he did this year,
yeah. I mean, it would be interesting to see how Dak utilized the speed that he would have in the 3 receivers there, right? Because they have OBJ now.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not a Dak fan by any means, but I think it'd be interesting to see him have that trio of weapons. I think where he still runs into a problem is they don't have a defense there, and if he has to push, that's where he turns over, you know, all the time.
Yeah.
He doesn't do very well with the come from behind action. Soon as that starts to get in his head, that's where turnovers really start to be a thing.
Exactly.
So where you still think JJ sits the whole year?
McCarthy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a hard time believing Darnold starts all year.
See, I'm kind of on the fence about this because I understood the Sam Darnold acquisition. I was just more so upset with what they paid him when you look at guys like Jameis Winston that were only getting $7 million, Joe Flacco getting $6 million. I'm like, if you really only wanted a 1-year bridge quarterback, why didn't you just sign Jameis Winston for $7 million, who's 28 years old, as opposed to Darnold? I mean, Darnold's 27, but at least Jameis Winston has shown like
his
5 years that he can at least do something with it. I mean, he threw a lot of interceptions early in his career, but then after that,
that's what I was going to say. Is he is a turnover machine? Like if you don't like turnovers, Jameis Winston's a problem.
But since he had his LASIK surgery, it hasn't been as bad. Like
it's been a little better.
job. He's done a better job with that. But when it comes to Darnold, the way I look at Sam Darnold is he was the number 3 pick in the NFL draft for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, he was one of the best high school quarterbacks ever to come out of high school before he went to USC. Like, he was expected to be the number 1 pick when he entered USC as a freshman. He fell to number 3. And Sam Darnold has never been, apart from San Francisco where he was the backup last year, he's never been in a situation where he has the kind of weapons that he has now on offense. Like, the Jets had absolutely nobody on offense when he was there, and there's a reason why the team was pathetically terrible when he was there, because it was literally him and a bunch of bench players that were trying to do something. Then
And
he
no
sent him
offensive
to
line.
And then he sent him to Carolina, who was a complete dumpster fire that was even worse than the Jets somehow. And it's like, well, we still can't do anything here.
Yep.
Then he sent him to San Francisco, who arguably has the most talented offense in the NFL, and he didn't start any games, but he played in 4 games and put up decent numbers. Put up,
Yep.
I think, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and like 400 yards passing with San Francisco. So when he had an opportunity to play last year, he showed that he still has what it takes. And now you're putting him in Minnesota with Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson. Once Hawkinson comes back, they brought in Robert Tonyan. They still have Jordan Oliver, Aaron Jones in the backfield. Like, this is the most talented offense that he has had since he's been in the NFL. And I think that's why, unless he struggles mightily or unless the season goes south, I don't expect J.J. McCarthy to start until after week 12. I think the first 12, 13 weeks of the season, it's going to be Sam Darnold's job, because this is the most talented offense that he's ever had to work with. And they want to see and he was the number 3 pick for a reason. They want to see if he still has that in his arsenal to do something. And if he does, I'm not saying Minnesota's going to make the playoffs, but Minnesota will be a much more competitive team than what people expect if he does kind of prove that he can work with the weapons that he has at his disposal.
Well, especially if the defense can play like they did down the stretch last year.
Yeah.
Because the defense really kind of came on.
Yeah.
Early in the season, they were bad. But I mean,
Yeah.
there was no other way to call it. Like, they were just not a good defense. But as the year progressed, they really got a lot better.
That's why, like, they're going to be patient with J.J. McCarthy, because there is a lot of, I'm not going to say necessarily flaws, because what do you consider a flaw until you really see the guy play at the NFL? You can't really say this is a flaw, because until you see what he can do in an NFL field, you don't know. But there's a lot of, like, flaws in footwork, a lot of flaws with how he throws the football that need to be fixed before they just turn the ball and be like, this is your team now. Like, Kevin O'Connell said, I'd rather have an athletic quarterback with horrible footwork than a non-athletic quarterback with great footwork, because you can always fix footwork. You can always fix certain parts of the game. But if you're like Kirk Cousins, where you're not athletic, but you have really good footwork, there's only so much that you can do with that. Versus McCarthy's at least athletic enough where they can change kind of parts of his game, which is why I think this year is more so of figuring out the kind of guy that McCarthy is before you hand him the keys.
Yeah. No, I could see that. Although, I mean, I still think you guys got to try and figure out how to use your running backs ever.
I mean, well, the thing is this year is we have Aaron Jones this year. And yes, Aaron Jones has got a history of missing games with a hamstring injury, which it is what it is. Yep. But he has an element that we haven't had in a running back since we had Chester Taylor and Delvin Cook in his prime, where he can catch passes out of the backfield and he can run the football. But then they also have Tyson Chandler, because they got rid of Alexander Madison now, but they also have Tyson Chandler as their backup, who was the starting running back the last 3 weeks of the season last year. The guy runs a 4.3 4.40. So you give that guy a hole, he's got game-breaking speed. So now not only do they have 2 running backs that are playmakers, but it's 2 completely different running backs that throw different looks at the defense.
Yeah. No, I actually like your team. It's going to be a tough division to do anything in.
Oh, yeah, it will be.
But honestly, I think it's going to be a fun division to watch.
And I said this to one of my buddies the other day who's a Viking fan also. I think Minnesota's going to have a worse record this year than what they had last year. But I think they're a better team. But I think they're going to have a better team. And he's like, well, how does that make sense? And I'm like, their division is better this year than it was last year. So it's not going to surprise me if they go 0-6 in their division. And that doesn't mean that they're a bad team. It's just that Detroit is Detroit. They're good.
Yep.
The Packers are the Packers. They're good. The Bears improved significantly. So, like, the division itself got better. So if they go 0-6, I'm not going to be surprised.
Yep.
And then you just look at some of the games on their schedule and, like, where they're playing some of these teams. Like, they're going to Seattle. They're going to Baltimore. They're going to, like, all these tough road venues. It's like this team could go 5-12 or 4-13.
Oh, easily.
And then you're going to be like, oh, the team had a terrible year. But it's just like, it doesn't matter. They probably had a better team this year than what they had last year. It's just the way the schedule worked out this year, just how much tougher the division got.
No, for sure. And honestly, Seattle's going to run into that same issue. Is the West is going to be a very tough division because the Cardinals are definitely going to be better. I mean, they had like 14 picks in the draft. The Rams are going to be better. The Niners somehow managed to keep everybody one more time. And, the Hawks, although will probably be a better team, certainly the defense will be better. But they probably end up as a 9-win team. Like that's probably what they are. And at 9 wins, do you make it into the playoffs? Tough to say. That's a bubble team for sure.
As a 7 seed, maybe, but anything better than that, barring a drastic decline in the NFC West, no.
Oh yeah, I mean they don't win their division. No chance. The Niners own that division one more time because it's next year that they really have all the contracts come up where they're going to start losing talent. But for this year, the Niners are easily the best team in the West, probably the second best team in the conference. So if the Hawks make it, it's as a wild card team, but the Rams will be right there.
Yep.
Arizona's not going to be as bad as people keep saying they're going to be. For whatever reason.
I'm kind of on the same thing with Arizona too. Like I think Arizona could have a similar record than what they had last year. Maybe even a game worse. But I think they have a better team this year than what they had last year. It's just that they have so many young pieces, so many young rookies that it's going to take them a while to get up to NFL speed.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I think they're building well moving forward. Obviously, they have to figure out, do they really love Kyler or not?
Yeah.
Which it sure doesn't look like they do. I understand they paid him, but they seem to be so wishy-washy on if they're really behind that guy or not.
I think it's more so they want to see if he can stay healthy. I think last year they were more so wishy-washy on him because they knew he wasn't going to be available the first half of the year. Now that he's had the full offseason under his belt again, now that he's coming into this year at 100% healthy right now, I think you'll get more transparency on it. You'll get more transparency on it, whether they're sold on him to be their long-term guy or if it's more of a year-by-year process where they see how things are going.
I mean, I think they need to see some good quarterback play out of him for this year, whether there equates to wins or not. I think they need to see good decisions out of him and an increased ability to read a defense. I think is really kind of a key part of that.
Yep.
Now, whether or not that happens, who knows?
So what are your thoughts of Minnesota bringing in Hunter Renfrow for a workout this week?
I don't hate that. I mean, anytime you can add an element to a team that you know is good. And it's not like he's not a guy that is a cancer or anything like that. Like I always hate when a team brings someone in and they're like, oh, he's the supreme talent. And you're like, yeah, but his brain's a bag of cats and prefer him not ruin a locker room. Renfrow, if the workout goes well, like he adds an element to the team.
He'd be their perfect slot receiver.
No question.
And he'd be basically a younger version of what Adam Thielen was when Adam Thielen was here.
Yeah. No, and that's why I say, like, he'd be a great addition to the team if it works out. And honestly, probably a great connection for Darnold.
Oh, yeah.
Because Darnold does actually like to use slot receivers, tight ends. Like, he's one of those quarterbacks that isn't always trying to push it down the field, despite having the ability to. And I think some of that is he played for a lot of teams that had bad offensive lines. So he's like, oh, you know what? These check down guys they're all right. Like, I like these guys.
they can catch and move the ball too. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I don't
like
get murdered. This is awesome. But yeah, no, I think that'd be a good addition for him. No question. So he has the workout today?
And this week, I think they said either Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, okay. All right. No, that'll be good to watch. I could see that being a huge benefit to him. You know, for me on my side with Seattle, my biggest question with this team isn't on the offense, right? We know Gino is safe in his job, right? I'm really curious about this defense. Now, I think this defense can be better than it's been over the last 5 years because it's been a bottom 5 defense consistently. What worries me about it is, say they're good, right?
Say they're good.
Say they're good. Say they come out and they are significantly better than last year. So say they're 15th, right? Not elite, just effective.
Yep.
They're mostly 1-year deals, which means a lot of those people get
besides
paid.
Witherspoon, yeah.
What's that?
Besides Witherspoon, who they drafted, and then the other guy, yeah.
Yeah, so you have Witherspoon, you have Woolen, and then they obviously extended Williams. So I mean, there's a couple of guys that have contracts, but a lot of that defense is 1-year deals, or like they're playing out the last year or two of their deal.
Yep.
So say they're good. Say they take that leap and they go from what I think they were 27th last year. So they go from 27th to 15th, which is a huge jump, right? How much of that defense do you get to keep going into the next year? So, the 1-year deals work, obviously, if they're bad, but
Right.
we already had bad, so that doesn't help.
We don't want bad no more. We want good.
Exactly. So my biggest question with this team, without a doubt, is what this defense is, and what kind of philosophy does McDonald bring? Obviously, what we saw with the Ravens, it was a great defense.
Yep.
But he had some pieces on that defense that the Seattle team doesn't have. So we'll kind of see what it is that looks like. But my biggest question there is, what does it look like this coming year? And if it's good, who can they even keep?
That's true.
So, which again is why I think they're a 9-win team. I think their schedule got harder. They'll be a better team than they were, but I don't think they win more games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. So now we got Christian McCaffrey going to be on the cover of Madden. So which week does he get hurt?
4. We're on week 4.
Week 4? I mean, I feel like you're probably not wrong.
We're going week 4. He's going to try to bust out an 80-yard run, and there goes the hammy.
Oh, you think it's okay. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense because you're not really allowed to hit anymore. So
that's been McCaffrey's biggest bugaboo whenever he does get hurt. It's those hammies.
Yeah. Well, I could see that. I mean, cover of Madden, it's not generally good.
Even though it actually hasn't affected people the last couple of years.
The last couple of years, true. But historically, it hasn't been great.
I think Patrick Mahomes is the one that broke the curse.
Yeah, he did all right.
Because they put him on the cover the year after he got him to the AFC Championship game, the year that he was on the cover for the first time. He won his first Super Bowl. And then they put him on the cover again last year. And he won the Super Bowl again.
Yeah. All right. So switching gears a little bit, we got people losing their minds for some reason that Caitlin Clark is not on this Olympic team. And that seems ridiculous to me because the Olympics aren't a let's get people in the stands thing. It's you want to come back with hardware. You want gold medals. And she is not the best player at her position in the league yet. Now, maybe she will be, but 12 games into a WNBA season, she is not. And so as much as everybody has been freaking out about it, it doesn't make sense for, like, who would you bump off this roster to have her on it that you think she's an upgrade for?
Honestly, I don't even know who's on the damn roster.
I mean, at the end of the day, we can all accept the fact that she's.
I would have still put her on it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Do I think she's one of what is it, a 12-person roster?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Or is it 15?
Yeah, it might be 15 actually.
She may or may not be one of the 15 best players in the league right now. But what is she going to bring to the table if you put her on that team? She's going to bring in viewership. She's going to bring in marketing. She's going to bring in everything that women's basketball has been trying to get for the last 2 decades.
So here's the thing, though. The women's team has won gold the last 7 times.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, I don't know. I'm a big fan of, if you're going to something like that, you want to win. You want to bring hardware home. You want the best players on that team.
Mm-hmm.
So she's just not one of those best players yet. Not to say that she can't be, not to say she wouldn't be on the next one, but there's other people that are playing better basketball than her that it makes sense to have them on that team.
Yeah.
And some of it, who knows? Maybe some of it's just fatigue on its own, right? You go through this entire college basketball season. You go through the March Madness. You get to the draft a week later. 2 weeks later, you get into the WNBA, and then soon as by the time the league is done, you go right into the Olympics. I mean, that's asking a lot.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's another reason why I would add her to the roster, too, because somebody's going to get hurt. And somebody's going to get hurt at some point.
Well, the thing is the other people on this roster didn't have that same level of workload.
Yeah.
Trying to see exactly how big the roster is, because that I didn't know.
I think it's 15. I think it's a 15-person roster, but I think you can suit up 12 per game.
Oh, okay. No, 12 woman roster.
Who are they on there?
Let's see. We got Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, Ariel Atkins. Those are all previous Olympians.
Yeah.
Shakira Austin, Alea Boston, Chelsea Gray, another former Olympian, Ryan Howard, Sabrina, not even trying that.
Sabrina Ionescu?
Yes, there we go. Ionescu. And Jewel Lloyd, who also was on the 2020 team. So
That is?
that's 9.
Brianna Stewart's not on this roster somehow?
Well, so it's funny because this list ended before it got to 12. So that's just the top 9.
Brianna Stewart better be on that. Otherwise...
Oh, you know she is. I don't know why this list ended where it did. It's weird.
Brianna Stewart better be on that list. And then the other... there's another good shooter that I can't think of off the top of my head that better be on that list.
No, Brianna Stewart's on it. Like, there's no question.
But honestly, I would take... Man,
Let's see.
Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner to me are toss-ups.
Yeah, well, so I think Clark is actually playing a little bit better statistically than Taurasi, with the exception of turnovers.
Yeah.
Where Clark has a lot of turnovers.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, so Brianna Stewart is on it. Ajay Wilson also on it. So let's see. And oh, interesting. So maybe there were some changes because we got so this one from Sporting News got their list is a little different. So now I'm going to have to do some research as far as to who's actually on it, because when you click to a few different spots, it actually has different people. So that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
But weird.
They can't even get their damn Olympic team right. Jesus.
Right? You can't even get the roster out. Like, what are we even doing right now? Oh man. But one of the other things that people, when it comes to Caitlin Clark, one of the things, because she was left off it, she has this soundbite of saying they woken up a monster. It's like, how are you not coming out as a monster to start your WNBA career?
Because that's just not her personality, though. And we've said that before, that she doesn't have, like, the personality that you would expect her to have. Like, she's always, like, teammate first, me second. She doesn't have that. Like, she knows she's good, but she doesn't have that alpha dog personality that a lot of the good players have.
I don't know if I totally agree with that, because she does talk a lot on the court.
Yeah, on the court she does, but, like, when she's not on the court, like, after the game is over, she's like a completely different person. It's like the game is going on,
Sure.
she flips her in-game mode on, and as soon as the game's over, that switch goes off.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really wrong with that. I mean, if you're showing out on the court, who cares? But yeah, it was something that was funny, because I was on another show Monday morning, and one of the hosts was really just stuck on the fact that she said that, and it's like, man, it's not that serious. But at the same time, you would feel like you wouldn't have anything to get extra up, right? Like, that's usually something that happens after you've been on a team for a while. Like, you should have all of your, amperage to show out at the beginning of your career.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be stepping on the floor trying to kill the league, right? You're the golden child. You're the chosen one, whatever, right? So you'd want to prove everybody right. I don't know how something like this would be like, oh, now I'm going to go hard. It's like, well, what have you been doing then?
Right, exactly. She's just hanging out, taking her easy,
Yeah, I mean, I think it says more to what she's done to this point than what she's going to do moving forward. Because it's like, oh, okay, it took getting snubbed there to get you to, like, want to show out. Well, I mean, I feel like your teammates could have used you showing out the last, 10 losses. But
speaking of that, Sabrina Ionescu's fiance retired from the NFL yesterday.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
who?
Darren Waller.
Oh, Waller. That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's not like he was playing great.
I mean, if you traded me from the Raiders to the Giants, do you honestly think that I would give a shit how I played?
I mean, I guess it depends on how long you want to keep playing. Because paychecks in the league are easier to get than the paychecks out of the league.
He's fine.
I mean, he made plenty of money. I'm not saying that. But, you know, you got guys like AB who's bankrupt after making $80+ million. So,
but AB's brain is a walking CTE case.
well, there's no question.
So we can't really say too much on that end.
Yeah, no, I mean, at some point when you're looking up CTE, AB is going to be the poster child for that. In fact, they're going to show you the perfect hit.
What is CTE? The perfect hit is a video that you're going to see. This is what CTE is.
This is the perfect way to get CTE. Because fun with puns. But yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't really change anything in my mind. Like, it's not like the Giants got worse because he retired.
No.
That team's going to be bad regardless.
Yeah.
Who's their starting quarterback? Daniel Jones because they're paying him, or you think Drew Lock?
As of right now, it's Daniel Jones, but I still think Drew Lock gets that job at some point.
Well, do you think he gets it by default because Jones gets hurt again? Or
no, I think Daniel Jones has the
out.
job. I think Daniel Jones has the job by default right now because of the contract.
I would agree with that.
I think Drew Lock just outplays him, or Daniel Jones just plays bad enough that they just give it to Drew Lock and then he doesn't give it back.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, that's ultimately how I imagine it going down.
If the contract number wasn't an issue and this was a flat out like open competition in camp, I think Drew Lock beats him up.
Yeah, I think honestly, if it wasn't for the contract, I think they would have just cut him.
Yeah.
I mean, because his only good year came on a contract year, so good on him for showing out for 1 year.
Right.
But at the same time, that was largely because of Saquon. Because, I mean, Saquon was the difference maker on that team. It wasn't Daniel Jones.
No, exactly. Now they don't have Saquon this year, so that's really going to help their case too.
Yeah, well, and then they didn't get better at offensive line. I mean,
Nope.
Daniel Jones is going to get murdered out there the first couple weeks if he is the week 1 starter.
He's going to love his life, and Malik Neighbors is going to be like, what are we doing?
Yeah, why am I even here?
Why am I playing wide receiver? I'm not going to get a pass.
He's like, I should have just went back to school. You know, I've never been a fan of the idea of players being able to force their way, you know, not force, I guess, but finesse their way out of a team during the draft. But I think Neighbors probably should have.
I mean, it was going to be Neighbors, Adunze, or Harrison that was going to fall there, and I think Harrison. I don't even know if Harrison's even signed his rights for the jerseys yet.
Yeah, as far as I know, he hasn't.
You're trying to force yourself off of a team without saying you're trying to force yourself off of a team.
Let's see.
That's the definition of you saying you don't want to play anywhere without you physically saying I don't want to be here.
Exactly.
I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to go to practice with a number 18 on my back. That's all I'm doing. Who's number 18? I don't know. Make something up. Throw it in the back of my jersey.
So he has signed his deal.
Oh, good for you. Did Daddy finally tell you that you should do it?
He has signed the rookie contract.
Ah, boy, way to go, Daddy. Finally got in his ear.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, I mean, that's good. At least that's less of a distraction moving forward. I always find it interesting when the rookies don't sign their deals or they take a long time. I mean, it's
so do I. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, that's the thing, is it's a collectively bargained agreement. So, I mean, it's not.
This isn't the old NFL draft where you could make excessive amounts as a rookie. Like, what do you
Yeah.
think's going to happen if you hold out and don't sign your rookie contract? Okay, well, then you don't play for year one, and then when you finally negotiate the contract, the money's still going to be the same because there's nothing we can do about it. Like, you got picked here, this is the most money you can make. Like, I
Yeah.
can't give you more just because I want to.
No, I mean, basically you hold out, you don't play, so they still have the rights to you.
Yeah.
I mean, that one never makes sense. Just sign your rookie deal, show up to camp, make it happen.
Like, yeah, these rookies think that this is like when I think Sam Bradford, I think, was the last one, or maybe Andrew Luck. One of those two was like the last one that got like a super massive $65-70 million rookie deal. And since
Yeah,
then,
and
it's
that
been
worked
like,
out.
and since then, it's been like the number one pick makes like $36 million over 5 years. Like the first 3 years, you're getting next to nothing, and then the contract picks up. Just like these rookies need to understand, like the collective bargaining agreement is what determines the length of your contract and the amount you make. It's not like,
Yeah.
well, you can set every single record in college, be the number one pick. It's not like that GM can come in and say, well, I want to give you more. It's like, no, you physically can't. Like, this is
Yeah.
what you're walking into right now.
Yeah, I mean, the only way you can manipulate that is if you're somebody that owns other businesses, be like, okay, we're gonna give you this, you know, kind of advertising contract. Like you're gonna rep our brand. It's not officially part of your, contract here with the team, but but you don't have to delay signing your rookie deal for something like that to come together. But yeah, no, I always just find the not signing your rookie deal as just a weird thing because it's a contract that is what it is. It's based on where you are. The length of it's based on where you were drafted. Because first rounders all have that 5th-year option. Second and thirds, I think, are 4-year deals, right? And then anything after that's only a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think Caleb Williams is like the only rookie that hasn't signed his deal yet.
Has he still not signed it?
I don't think so.
Let's see. No, it looks like he has not.
So he's still hanging on.
In fact, it says as of Monday, 13 first-round picks have yet to sign their deals. So there's actually still quite a few that haven't.
That's fun.
That is weird. Because, I mean, now you're in these mandatory OTAs.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, can you actually even report to that if you haven't signed?
Yeah, you can still report. But if they don't sign and they get hurt, they don't get the insurance off of it.
Yeah, true. So, I mean, I guess you report, but then you don't practice. Like, that seems counterproductive.
Like that's like whenever you get hired by a new job and you have to work like X amount of months before you can qualify for health insurance. Like, you still show up to work because you got hired, but you just don't have the health insurance yet. That's kind of what like the mandatory OTAs are right now for these rookies who haven't signed the contract. Like, they're required to be there because they were signed and drafted by their team, so they're required to be there. They're just not under the health insurance that the NFL provides you and all that stuff until they sign that actual contract. Once that contract is signed, then they're covered under everything.
Oh, actually, so this is interesting. Drake May and Bo Nix are the only 2 first-round picks that have signed their deal.
There's 2 first-round quarterbacks yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Daniel still hasn't. Penix hasn't. McCarthy hasn't. Caleb obviously hasn't. Weird.
Yeah. McCarthy, I'm not too worried about. He's just he's a very good business person, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like he looks at like every avenue and every angle possible before he like commits to anything. So like him being, because he was a business major at Michigan, so him being involved in business, like he's not going to sign that until last minute. Like he's going to go through every possible scenario to figure out like how he can get the most money, this, and that before he signs. But I'm not worried about him not signing at all. I think the biggest question mark that everybody had heading into the draft was the character flaws of Caleb Williams. If he still is left unsigned heading into, we'll say, training camp, which I think starts in like a month from this week. I think training camp starts.
Yeah, something like that.
If he is still not signed heading into training camp, then you need to start worrying.
Yeah. Well, and there's definitely some major questions when it comes to Caleb Williams. I think he has the highest bust potential out of this group.
I thought that too initially. The only reason why I'm going to say no on that is just because of the amount of talent they put around him. That
He does have crazy talent.
Even if he doesn't play well, the talent around him is good enough to bail him out. I think the one that has the biggest bust potential, honestly, is Drake May. And it's just because if you look at what happened with Mitchell Trubisky. And granted, they are two completely different quarterbacks, but they still came from North Carolina. They still came from a similar system.
Okay.
Mitchell Trubisky had his one good year in college. And it was the 1 year that got that. He was a junior in college. He went off, had a great year, ended up getting drafted number 2. Drake May had a great first year under Phil Luongo as his offensive coordinator. Then Phil Luongo leaves North Carolina to go to Wisconsin, and Drake May had a good year last year, but it wasn't anything close to what he did his first year.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people were higher on Drake May than I was.
I think Bo Nix is the other one that I think has the best chance to be a bust also.
I could see that. I mean, he needs to become more accurate.
Well, and you saw like how good he was at Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Where the hell was that at Auburn?
Yeah.
Like you were at Auburn and you had just as much talent, if not even more talent than Oregon at times. The only difference is Oregon has a lot more speed. And you
Tons more speed.
You just played like complete shit at Auburn. Like where the hell was that your 3 years at Auburn?
No, that's fair.
That's why with Bo Nix, he's going to a team in Denver that traded away their fastest player in Jerry Jeudy. So what speed do you have in Denver right now? Yes, you have KJ Hamler, who's fast, but he's like a 5'6", 180-pound receiver. Like, if you want Bo Nix to be as good as he was at Oregon, well, Denver needs a lot more speed for that to happen. Then
Denver needs a lot of help, just overall. I mean, if I was a Broncos fan, I would not be looking at that quarterback room and feel excited about this coming season.
I'm not. You have Bo Nix, you have Jared Stidham,
and Zach Wilson.
Yeah,
like that is not a great quarterback room. And who do you think starts week 1? It's not going to be Nix.
I think Zach Wilson by default.
Exactly. So how excited could you be for this coming season?
I mean, and at the same time, though, you could make the case the Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold debate. Granted, I don't think Zach Wilson ever should have been the number 2 pick. I don't know how.
No.
I don't know how in the hell scouts even had him that high up, and I don't know what GM thought it was a good idea to take him number 2. I'm not saying he wasn't a first-round talent, but there's no way in hell he was the second-best player in that draft.
I actually don't know if he was a first-round talent.
I think he was a late first round. I think he still could have got in.
Yeah, if you're talking like 28.
Yeah.
Sure.
But, like, he's in a similar situation as Sam Darnold, where his entire tenure with the Jets, he had freaking shit. Not even just shit on offense. He had just shit everywhere. Offense, special teams, defense, everywhere. Like, that team was so pathetic.
They had a good defense. The Jets have a good defense.
Not his rookie year.
Not his rookie year, no. But, I mean,
when he got to the Jets, that team was terrible. and they haven't gotten much better. So, I mean, do we really know the real version of Zach Wilson yet?
I think we know his decision making.
Yeah, his decision making, yes.
So, and that's the part that is the major concern.
Yeah.
Can he throw the ball? Sure. If everything's perfect, can he complete passes? Yeah, but I would hope so. It's like
you're
when
not a quarterback.
It's like when people get excited about OTAs and they're like, "Oh, look at this pass from the quarterback to whoever," and you're just like, "Cool." I would hope you can complete passes. You are one of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and you're playing against no defense and no rush.
And a red jersey where they can't touch you.
Yeah, like I can complete that pass. Like, what are we talking about right now?
I would hope you can complete that pass, because if you can't, then you got bigger things to worry about.
Right? Like that is a bad deal all around. So yeah, it's
that was like, who was that quarterback last year? Oh God, what's his name? He was drafted in, I think, the 3rd round. Levis.
Yes.
So the first 2 days of like OTAs last year, Levis was like 0 for 31 passing, and everyone was just like looking at him like, "Oh shit, you are not completing a pass with nobody blitzing you. How are you going to complete a pass when people are blitzing you?"
Yeah. Yep.
Like if you cannot complete a pass when nobody is blitzing you, that's a problem.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the, I don't know. I guess the jury's out. We'll see what it becomes, but I don't know. I wouldn't feel good if I was a Denver fan right now. That's for sure. But that gets us to the top of the hour. If you've been watching along with us, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Other than that, we will see y'all tomorrow.